And I said to Marcus, now you know the background of Marcus and me. Uh, he was looking for a way to get on the West Coast. So he was spent a year at Berkeley. And Dick America was also there. Dick was a sort of in the business school on a kind of HIT supported program to recruit students and bring people into Berkeley. So the two of them, Marcus, I went up one day to visit them, and we were talking about there were not any black kids in business schools amount to anything. And they weren't going into economics at all. So I said, let's address the one we know something about, is economics. So I said, look, what if we put us a caucus together and go after the AA? He said, we don't have, where you get the money? I said, you come down, visit me, and we'll put a package together. And while that package is being processed, I will fund the whole thing. So Marcus and Dick came down, and we decided we had to have some kind of leadership, on-site leadership. So I went to the dean of the business school and asked if we could get Thad Spradlin to at least work half-time. I was funding Thad as a faculty development candidate already. So I said, I'll take half his time back. He said, okay. Well, really, there were four of us, really, when you look at it. Because we had Dick America, we had Marcus Alexis, and Thad, while not an economist, became our sort of secretary. And you had me, of course. So there were four of us who had to do the heavy lifting to get the caucus off the ground. Thad Spradlin was a PhD from Ohio State. And a few years younger than I. And Thad had some economics, but he was a marketing man, just like Marcus. Marcus never wanted to have that Marcus thing tied to him, that marketing piece tied to him. He wanted to be an economist. Well, it didn't matter in the long run. So Thad was a marketing guy, and he took that as he said, you think I could save this? I said, yeah, we need you to be an active secretary of this group and run my office, which I'm going to give you some staff to do. So I got Vicki Knock then, who's now a vice president of a major real estate operation now, just was then, my assistant, to be really the person who could work with that and do the kind of clerical work that needed to go. So we were a powerful group from the beginning. We had money, we had resources, and we had a base. So I said, what we need to do is go to the next meeting and make certain that people know we're here to do it. So I rented a suite and invited all the black economists I could find to my suite and told them what I wanted to do. They said, oh, well, you know, Andrew Bremer's going to be there and so on. So I said, I don't care. It doesn't matter. We have to take this to the power group. I said, we're going to have, at that time, we had drawn up a group of particulars. And interesting enough, because I had this program at UCLA, working on the campus, I knew just how to put a package together. I had Vicki to help me put the package together. And you put that package together, and everybody went through it and edited and so on. I said, this is what we want to present to these guys. So we went in at that night, and Barnard Anderson, Bernie came to the meeting. And Bernie was a friend of, was being sponsored by Andrew Bremer. Well, he's a graduate student. And he said, okay, you guys going to do it, huh? So I want to see this. So we came down in the meeting, and we told the president, who was then Willie Fellner, he was called, William Fellner, that, and one other person on the executive committee at the time was formerly, he was president, he had been an economist at Fisk University for many years. We had a number of people on that board who were in the executive committee who were very, very powerful. And so we went to them and said, this is what we want to do. They tried to shoot us down. And he said, okay. It ended in that we won't have further meetings. So he went back and decided how to get our package going. Lucky to us that we had a powerful group of people there that were able to carry us forward as it went on. I look at the members in the NEA, which was Bernie. Bernie was into policy all the way. Marcus in his own way was into policy. He was a marketing guy and talking about consumption function, black consumption, and so on. Everybody around us were dealing with relating to participation in the aggregate economic system and trying to find a way to get responses, economic responses, by forecasting and getting policies to fix things. The Black Economic Research Council, as I look back, the person who really was Bob Browne. What I liked about Bob Browne was he became a staging area for us to talk about issues and giving examples of what we could do if we went on a policy framework. Bob Browne and I went to Mississippi and looking at what we could do as a community if we tried to work with those small communities that were already fairly stable. We went down and we worked down Greenville in that whole area in there, the Delta, and talked about how we could influence things and so on. And we always had, Bob Browne was an example of a guy who talked about change and making it come out of the experiences where we had stability in the black communities. So we wanted to build in some decision-making apparatuses that would help local governments, particularly from our point of view, to look at how to get out of the conditions they were having. That would be policy in a micro sense. My favorite memory of NEA is getting down to Atlanta and dealing with Bob, Margaret's mentor at the business school. I'm trying to think of who there. Ed Hines was there, and Bob developed Alzheimer's, but he was a sponsor of Margaret. He was just a wonderful man. He's good to sit around because he had his dreams about black people doing things. And I saw him, he sponsored Margaret, who came down to teach, and there were other graduate students down there who later became presidents and active in the black community. And it was a period, me coming out of LA, seeing the black schools move forward. That was going to become a symbol of what we could do. I thought Atlanta was the place. So that was my favorite, to go down to those meetings down there. We had meetings down that was put together by Bob Browne and all the guys, and so we meet down there. And Margaret would be there. Margaret Sims was our charm. She could put things together. She had a great memory sense. She would run programs. She could run a program. It was just a wonderful world down there for me. I'd like to see us move down the track to get ready for something very close to reparation. It's going to happen. It's going to happen in the next 50 years. Because money is going to be coming in to help policy kinds of things at the local level. What we do for the schools, what we do for support systems for families and so on. Micro policies, and which will fall out of macro policies. And we ought to be in a position of doing statistics and keeping the behavioral stuff together and putting it all in an economic framework that will allow us to impact this movement. And people are going to see that we're not asking for too much. We may not get all they were asking for, but there'll be chunks of money going into our communities where we dominate and we're there. We need economists who are committed to making these communities go. They're going to be behaviorists, they're going to be policymakers, theoreticians, statisticians. We're going to have to have that kind of bureau of research, which will allow us to feed into the politicians and the policymakers a real sense of what we have to do, and we'll be on board for us, we'll also be on board for others. And I hope in that we take into consideration the power not only of blacks, but there are people in other groups that can help us create that. And if we try to do it alone, it's not going to work. We've got to bring other people in with us at the top of the organization. We've done a little of that now in the NEA. Other organizations were never organized into economic groups unless we had had the NEA out front. I'm saying we got to push that model on down the road so that within 50 years from now, we're going to be doing some things in our communities and so on to revitalize our wealth